It's easy to feel separated from farming in a city, but we're surrounded by thousands of foragers, bees. Dublin Made Me is a market brought to you by Dublin2020, where you can taste food from your city. Let's meet the two men who put honey into the heart of Dublin 1.
I share a studio with Kieran Harnett, who's a photographer. He was keeping bees in Drumcondra. My grandfather kept bees, my uncle kept bees, so it was always in there as something that I was interested in. And I was a keen sort of potager and greenhouse maker and chicken keeper. When Kieran told me he was keeping bees, he was my introduction.
For me, I think it was all about the honey initially. Yeah, I'd heard about the medicinal qualities of honey, especially local honey. And a friend of mine had a daughter who was very allergic to, pollen, and she had asthma. So I sourced local honey to try and help her. And I liked it so much, I thought it'd be great to try and produce some for myself. Well, luckily for us, the bees here in Belvedere are in a heat island in the middle of the city, so it's a good 3 or 4 degrees warmer here than it would be in the suburbs or the countryside, which has allowed some of the trees, like the lime trees, to flourish this year that didn't give us any nectar in the other parts of the city. So there's a lovely flavour of lime off the honey here at Belvedere College, and also all the other trees that the bees will find in Mountjoy Square and Parnell Square around here, so sycamore, chestnut, lavender from the gardens, it's that kind of thing.
So each of our honey has a distinguishing characteristic. The Dublin 4 honey is in an apple orchard. So there's a sort of a base of apple blossom for all the early honey this year. The Dublin 14 honey is in a garden, and then the rooftop honey in Belvedere is almost it's a microclimate, which is allowing the bees to do a slightly different thing. So bizarrely, even though Dublin is a relatively small place, each of the honeys we produce has a different flavour profile. I think bees are healthier in the city because people don't use as many pesticides and herbicides in their gardens around their pets and children that they would at a more industrial scale when people are farming the country.
There's no comparison really. An awful lot of the commercial honeys you buy in the supermarkets are really just sugar syrup. They've been so heated and pasteurised and filtered that there's no goodness left in them. There's no enzymes, there's no pollen. There was a study in America recently and they found that 7 out of all the 10 honeys they tested in supermarkets weren't legally allowed to be called honeys. The best thing to help bees when you're gardening, I think, is to plant early and late sources of forage when there isn't an awful lot out. So in the wintertime, if you can plant things like mahonia, snowdrops, crocuses coming up in the springtime, I think that will extend the flowering season. And then coming into the autumn, ivy is a great plant for the bees, so a lot of people don't like ivy, but actually it's a fantastic source of nectar. Dublin is amazing as a European capital. It's exceptional in the amount of green space we have in the city. I think nearly 50% of the space within the boundaries of Dublin is actually green space. 25% of that is gardens and 25% of that is actually parks and institutional land. Yeah, Dublin is a great place to be a bee, I think.